How is it going then, everybody? I hope you're all doing very well. Welcome to another video here on our channel. I'm the FIFA Analyst, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how you can identify your opponent's strengths and weaknesses in FIFA 20. It's something you may not really think about too much when you're actually in the game and thinking about your opponent because you're so busy focusing on yourself, on what you should be doing as a player. But it is actually something that can go a long way in helping you win that game. So we're going to go through, we're going to show you some little bits of footage as well to kind of talk about exactly what we can look for in game, and then also just talk about our kind of pointers on there. So let's go ahead and kind of jump into our first point. So I'm going to look straight away from kickoff, to try and get an idea of what formation they are going to be playing in game. Obviously the 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2 is the tend to be, the go-to. However, they play 4-1-2-1-2 narrow or a 3 at the back. I do want to be cautious of that, so I will always try and keep an eye on that, whether that's looking at the mini map or kind of looking in game as well. But it's also testing to see if they prioritise covering the striker and the centre attacking mids. The particular opponent we played here didn't switch to the Bakayoko quick enough to cover that striker and centre attacking mid. If that's an Elite Plus player here, we know they're going to cover that pass and put the pressure on the ball holder pretty much instantly. That's one thing that Elite players do really well, is covering that middle passing lane, but also their player switching is on point. For a lot of goal players, player switching is something that they struggle with. They're constantly changing around with LB, L1, trying to learn right stick switching, and I will make sure that we're kind of exploiting that when I come up against. That's kind of going to be my first point. And then also just generally, I will go backwards a little bit, and I just want to move the ball around, and I want to see how much time they're going to give me on the ball. So if I can dribble in and around the middle of the park, I know based this on the level of the opponent is if how much pressure they put on me. If they come and pressure me loads, I know I'm up against a good player. If they're kind of backing off and just covering the passes, but they're not putting the pressure on, that kind of gives me the indication that I might be in for a little bit of an easier time. I can take my time, I can pick it out, and, I can kind of play the football the way I want to. When I come up against some of the best players in the world, one of the things that they do is they put immense pressure on you, which makes it very difficult for you to move the ball around and kind of think, a few steps ahead. It's also the thing like this. This is one thing to take into account when you're playing against someone. You can clearly see there's no way that he can go forward here. Going backwards should have been what the opponent should have been looking for. You find that a lot of the weaker opponents don't have the patience to go backwards. It's either they're defending or they're going forward, and they will go until they basically either score, have a shot and goes out for a corner, or they give the ball away. They never go, I've not got much on, I'm going to go back here. They just keep going forward. If I notice that, I know that I don't really need to put too much pressure on. I can just linger in around the middle because they're only going to go forward and give me the ball away. Like there, passing lanes, as long as I cover those passing lanes and then have that little bit of pressure, they're just going to crumble on that kind of thing. So that's one thing that I do tend to look at. Obviously, when you come on against a very good opponent, you will notice that you cover the passing lanes and then they take the ball out wide and then they recycle and then come back in, and it's like a completely different ball game. That's when you have to really focus in, and you have to make sure that, like here, he doesn't cover the pass into the striker. He goes to the other end, of the midfield. You need to make sure that you are on point when you are doing that, when you know you're up against a good opponent. You can get a general sort of gist of how the guy, the opponent is that you're playing from how quick they move the ball around and what sort of skill moves they tend to do in the first 10-15 minutes. For myself as a FIFA player, one of the things that I will do is I will move the ball around, right? Just choice of skill move here from the opponent actually that we played. He tries to do a fake shot backwards. It's too easy to read. If that's a high level opponent here, they fake shot downwards towards the byline, or they do a drag back. That gives me, again, the little bit of knowledge to know maybe skill moves isn't something that opponent that I'm up against is that strong with, so I don't need to rush too much. I don't need to dive in. Whereas if I come up against, a very good player, they will show me the skill moves they can do and they execute them really well. In the first 10-15 minutes, that's one thing that I will do. I will use the skill moves a little bit more often. As I run down the byline here, I'm not afraid to use a fullback, and what I'm trying to do is to see if he's going to move that man across. That, again, high-level opponent would move that man across straight away. Opponent we're up against here doesn't. He backs off a little bit, lets me make the way into the box. A top opponent there would have stopped me from getting into the box beforehand. When I've played against some of the pros this year, that's one thing that they are well at. They read the game to that next degree. So I've talked about all this and said, this is what we're kind of looking out for. We want to look to see, do they go backwards more than they go forwards? Do they have any skill moves in the locker? How often do they play passes directly into myself? Do they let me kind of cover the passing lanes and then put pressure on them like they do there? And then it's kind of going, I've noticed all this and I know that they're going to do it. Well, what do I then do as the FIFA player? Guys, if you are enjoying this video, please do let me know by dropping that like button. You can subscribe to the channel. We do upload every day at 5 PM. There is 75% of you that watch these videos that aren't subscribed, which is absolutely mad. And you've all seen more than one video. That's one stat that we're kind of seeing here. You've probably watched more than one. So subscribe if you enjoy it. Also, we do stream every single day at twitch.tv/FIFA Analyst. Head on over there if you are interested. So for yourself, when you're coming up against these guys and you know, okay, he doesn't defend the wings very well. He doesn't do very well at knowing that I'm going to go down the byline. He always thinks I'm going to cut back. You keep looking at exploiting that. You might even notice, like here, one thing, for example, a lot of low-level opponents don't use a wing. He had a chance to go down the wing there and decided not to. There was no one else around him. He needed to play that box. He needed to play the pass into the box because that's one thing that lower-level opponents don't seem to prioritise as much. They don't go into the box. That is where you score your goals, guys. Head into the box. Make sure that if you've got a chance to do it, you go ahead and take it. So we've kind of learned, yep, my opponent does this, my opponent does that, my opponent's bad at this, my opponent's not good at that. How do I exploit it? If you've spotted, he's not very good at dealing with 1-2s, exploit the 1-2s. If you're running a 4-2-3-1 formation, you could change to a 4-4-2 if you wanted to make sure you can keep repeating those 1-2s to get past him really, really easily. If you realise they're not very good at defending the wings, attack the wings. If you know he's not very good at player switching, he seems to be just using the LB, L1 button, play quick FIFA. Move the ball around, right? Don't, just sit there and do nothing with it. If you can play that little quick 1-2, that's one thing that someone who struggles with player switching will be really, really, difficult for them to defend against. So make sure you exploit that at all costs. And then one that's really, really effective is knowing what skill moves they're good at defending and what they are bad at defending. So just make sure that when you get into the game and you use a few skill moves, if they don't defend them very well, use them more often than you might not, right? Normally you might not do that many skill moves, but if you realise this guy's not very good at them, he keeps trying to tackle, he's panic tackling, he's pressing the tackle button when he shouldn't be, you want to make sure you're exploiting it. So just always constantly look at it. And as I said at the start, have a look at that mini-map, have a look at what they're doing in game. If you want, pause it, go onto the match facts, see what formation they're playing. Every little bit of intel you can get on your opponent can help you have that possible advantage in knowing, okay, he's playing a 4-1-2-1-2 narrow, he's going to have the overload through the middle. I need to make sure that I don't give the ball away. And also, I want to make sure that I exploit the wings. That's one thing that if you don't keep an eye on that, you might not ever know. And then you get to the end of the game and go, how did he beat me there? He kept getting me through the middle. What did he do? Well, he was playing 4-1-2-1-2 narrow. You need to make sure you're constantly looking at those sort of things. So for yourself, when you are coming up against an opponent and you go, you know what, he's not got many weaknesses. This guy's very, very strong. He might even be better than me. How do you deal with that? How do you do that as a player? This is when you need to adapt your game style. In my opinion, FIFA 20 is slow. Slow it down yourself. I generally say the rule of go backwards more than you go forwards and sideways, but with a purpose, all right? Don't just go back to the centre-backs for no reason. Ideally, on FIFA, you want to have the ball in the opponent's half on their edge of the box. And all you're going to do is keep moving the ball around and you're going to wait for him to drag someone out of position. And then when they drag someone out of position, that's when you find that pass into the box. First time fake shot, take the shot into the near post, scoop turn, whatever it is that you may be doing, that's kind of what we need to go ahead and exploit. I've kind of gone through the tactics, and then the other one is, what if you come up against someone, right, that is pressing a tackle button loads, get the ball into feet, into the opponent, kind of get in their face. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. Get into their face. If they are pressing that tackle button, you just want to get into their face, kind of bait the little run, and then lay the ball off to the next opponent. And then you look for that 1-2 in behind, and because they press the tackle button, it's now very easy for you to kind of get in behind on that front. It's a hard thing to do, to realise what level your opponent is, but you should be able to kind of get an understanding of how they are from those points that I've spoken about, and you need to adapt your game style based on that. So for me, if I'm up against an elite player, and I know it's an elite player and above, from those points that I've spoken about, I'll play 4-2-3-1. If I'm up against a gold player, silver, someone that I know probably isn't going to be as good as me, then I'll probably play a 4-4-2, and that's where I'm going to be a bit more aggressive. I'm going to use the 2-striker formation because the 1-2s are much easier to play against them, and I'm just going to look to exploit every little avenue, and I'm just going to outscore them. I'm not too fussed that they might get more score goals against me because I always think I'm going to outscore them. Does that make sense? But then against the top guys, I just don't want to give away a goal, because it's basically who makes the first mistake is going to be what kind of separates the winner and the loser. if that kind of makes sense. So yeah, I hope that kind of has cleared that all up for you guys. That's the things that I am going to pay attention to when I am coming up against someone in FIFA. And it's from minute 1, you should be able to get an understanding of what level the opponent is in about 20 minutes, maybe even 10. It really depends how much you want to zone in on it. Pay attention to it over the next couple of games, see if it's something that you think, I've never really thought about that, but now I kind of know, and adapt the game style based on that sort of thing as well. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you have, then please do let me know by dropping a like. You can subscribe to the channel. We do upload every single day at 5 PM. I do want to thank you all very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll catch all of you guys later on. Bye-bye.